All right, in our first half hour, we took a closer look at Illinois politics, and now we're on the other side of the river to see what lawmakers have been up to in Iowa. We are rapidly nearing the end of the legislative session, so for a check-in on what bills are still alive and what could become law in Iowa, we turn to Dana Searles of our sister station, WOI in Des Moines. Dana, I want to start with education today. We've talked a lot about the cell phone ban in classrooms that passed the House and Senate. It's on its way to becoming law in Iowa. But let's talk about education budgets today. What did the House recently pass?
So basically now schools will know how much funding they will be getting from the state, so they are able to start making their budgets, which they do have to submit to the state by the end of this month. So this took a couple months for House Republicans and Senate Republicans to get on the same page. Originally, House Republicans wanted to pass a 2.25% increase in state funding going to public schools, while the Senate Republicans wanted a 2% increase. Ultimately, after about 2 months of debate, I would say, House Republicans got on board with the Senate proposal. And so now schools will be getting a 2% increase in public school funding from the state. So that'll be 2% per student. And then there will be an additional 5% increase per student for the amount of money that districts will receive to pay for its transportation costs. So a big thing right there that was just passed. Schools now can start making their budget. Again, it was a long road to get here, and ultimately House Republicans got on board with Senate Republicans' proposal of a 2% increase.
And of course, we're saying House Republicans and Senate Republicans because Democrats in both houses wanted a 5% increase, and instead the 2% increase was passed. But sticking with students and kids, a bill that's on the governor's desk, it just needs a signature to become law, is all about firearms. What does this bill say?
So this bill would basically, it's very bare bones. It would lower the age for people to acquire or carry a pistol or a handgun from 21 to 18 years old. It's as simple as that. That's kind of what it would do. It would change the age from 21 to 18, and we've kind of seen it moving through the legislature slowly but surely. It hasn't really seen any big changes, but it's nothing that they're pushing really far forward super fast. So it's kind of been a course of probably the past month that we've seen this bill moving from the House to the Senate. Ultimately, the Senate did pass that bill.
Well, let's turn to elections. There's a really wide-ranging election bill that's on Governor Reynolds' desk right now. It's waiting to be signed into law. So what would this election bill require?
So it actually was a few different bills that ultimately got brought into one bill. So what it would do is three different things. The first one is it would ban ranked choice voting in the state. What ranked choice voting is pretty much what it sounds like, where you would go to the ballot and be able to rank your preference of your candidate in the order from, first to last, which is not something that Iowa actually does. So what this would do is just, prevent it from all happening as a whole. The second one that's a little bit more controversial that we've seen a lot of discussion about would require or allow election workers to question voters on their citizenship status. When they come to show up to the polls to cast their ballots, they would be able to question them on citizenship status. Right now, those election workers are able to question them on their age and residency. So this would expand that to citizenship. And then the third and final thing in the bill would basically make it harder to become a major political party in the state. What it would do is it would require your political party to receive at least 2% of the votes in the past 3 general elections in order for you to be determined a major party in that election.
All right, Dana, last one. There's been a bill we've been watching that actually failed last year, but it's getting a lot more traction this year. It's all about cancer coverage, specifically for firefighters and first responders. So what does this one say?
Yeah, this is something that firefighters have been pushing for last year into this year. It honestly was kind of an emotional time in the Capitol when this bill ultimately was passed out of the Senate. So what it does is expanding the definition of cancer in the state. Now, these first responders want this because currently under Iowa's disability law, only 14 of about 200 cancer types are covered. So this would expand it to cover all types of cancer types. A lot of people that were advocating for this bill and at the Capitol constantly supporting this were people who have lost spouses to cancer who were first responders. There were a few firefighters who passed away from cancer, and I think a big thing from them was they, had to keep working while undergoing these cancer treatments because it wasn't covered under Iowa's disability law. So this was a big win for those first responders. They've been fighting for this for a while. It stalled in the House, or in the Senate rather. It stalled in the Senate last year. The House overwhelmingly passed it once again, and then the Senate got on board and passed that. So big win, an emotional win, but something that first responders are definitely excited about.
Dana, thank you so much for your time today. And for you guys at home, we've compiled our political coverage for both sides of the river on WQAD.com. Just click on the As Seen on TV tab at the top of the homepage.